So good evening, everyone. Dan Daneska, Assistant City Planner and Wetlands Agent for the City of Norwich. It's the Thursday, May 5th, 2022 in the Wetlands, Watercourses and Conservation Commission meeting. The meeting is being audio and video recorded tonight. I would ask for the record if you could please state your name when speaking because we can't see everyone in the room or anyone that's online or on the phone. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rich to start the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. A roll call has been taken and we will all be voting. Next will be approval of the minutes. I'd like to start by saying on page 2, the second to the last paragraph, they have my name is Robert Morrell instead of Richard Morrell. It's the only correction I see. Anybody else? Doug?
I don't have any additional comments.
Peter?
No.
Brandon?
Brandon, no additional comments.
Is there a move to approve the meeting minutes?
Pete, motion
Brandon,
to
so
approve.
moved.
Sorry,
Is there a second?
Pete, second.
All in favor, please state your name.
Doug, aye.
Pete, aye.
Brandon, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. Communications, Dan?
We have none.
Public hearings, IWWCC number 2205, Business Park North.
I'll read this quick. Hopefully you can hear me. Proposed construction of a 40-foot curb-to-curb roadway that extends approximately 1.4 miles from Connecticut Route 97 to Lawler Lane. Proposed construction of the roadway, associated utilities, and stormwater management system will result in the removal of wetland soil and vegetation. Work will occur within the wetland regulated area, upland review area, and cross Byron Brook. Includes land disturbance activities associated with future development sites that are part of a proposed business park project. The project area includes approximately 367 acres of land north of Interstate 395, east of Scotland Road, and west of Taffel-Ockham Road. I-395 runs along the southern border, while Lawler Lane, Old Canterbury Turnpike, and Connecticut 97 all border different parcels that comprise the site. Application of Norwich Community Development Corporation, care of Kevin Brown, President. Property of M&A Holdings, LLC / Byron Brook Country Club, LLC. Robert J. Arnone, member. Assessors map 19, block 2, lot 16, 55, and 46. Map 23, block 1, lot 7 and 8. Map 24, block 1, lot 1, 8, 12, 13, 54. Map 25, block 1, lot 1 and 2. Zone is Planned Development District and General Commercial. And we'll need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
There's Douglas.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Pete, second.
All in favor?
Doug, aye.
Brandon, aye.
Pete, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved.
So the applicants are present in the room. I have their presentation boards online as well. I just ask to make sure I'm following along with you what you're talking about on the screen. And please state your names when you're speaking.
If you need to move closer, you can, if you're gonna be speaking. And we're gonna be projecting it on this larger TV. If I'm in your way, let me know. So,
I'll open on behalf of the applicant. My name is Mark Block. I'm counsel to the Norwich Community Development Corporation. I have an office at 138 Main Street in Norwich. I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Norwich Community Development Corporation, which is developing, as you all know, parcel of land which has been known as Business Park North. I'm here this evening with Kevin Brown, President of Norwich Community Development Corporation, Mr. Henry Resnikoff, who is the Project Development Consultant, and the following professionals from Bowler Engineering and Land Tech, Jeff Ward, Brian Carey, and Chris Allen. And you should have the resumes of Mr. Board, Mr. Carey, and Mr. Allen as part of the submissions of NCDC. By way of brief background, while the overall project is the development of property, which is approximately 283 acres, the application that's before you this evening is for approximately 8,000 feet of a proposed roadway to access the business park. It does not involve any other activity within the property, just this 8,000 feet of proposed road. We're seeking the permits to construct as the approximate 8,000 interior arterial roadway for the business park. And we wish to highlight this evening that any future purchaser of a lot within the business park would have to come before this commission for any required permits having to do with their particular parcel. So before you tonight is only an application involving the roadway, does not involve any other area of the park. To prepare for this permit, wetlands were flagged by Land Tech within the last 60 days, according to ACOE standards. Flags were then mapped by boundary surveyors, so the flagging is up to date and we believe accurate. Bowler will give a short presentation of the civil layout and detail. Land Tech will then give a short presentation about the wetlands and the quality of the wetlands themselves. As will be explained in the technical presentation, the request being made directly impacts only 9,899 square feet of wetlands, which represents 0.22% of the entire wetlands on the site. The activity in the upland review regulated area represents 413,149 square feet of non-wetland but regulated activity. And that's the overall presentation for the application. I'd like to turn it over now to Mr. Board.
Thank you very much. Can we go to the next slide before I introduce
Sure,
myself?
Dan, you go to the next slide. Can I clarify something though for you?
Sure.
Attorney Block? So the application is not just for the road. I think we're showing the lots correctly. We're going to show the development of the lots too for this proposal.
I mean, from our standpoint, it was just the roadway.
It's just the roadway.
There was no subdivision or
Not
lot
subdivision, but I
creation.
thought the areas where, not lots, but areas where the developable sites were going to go, wasn't that going to be part of this application?
I know we had submitted an overall master plan just for reference purposes only. We did not have anything to do with creation of lots at this point.
Recognizing that down the road. So the permit for the wetlands involving the road only and not the wetlands that
Correct.
may be part of any future development.
Okay, that's just to clarify. Dan, do you want to explain the legal notice that we did? Or that what it says, it's the developing of the lots, true, correct?
Yeah, the portion that I read includes land disturbance associated with the future development sites that are part of the proposed park. So it was referring to the overall master plan. We know that it'll come back for individual lots as they're developed, or sites, whatever they may end up being.
I can say at a very high level, during our presentation today, we'll technically discuss the roadway itself in great detail. And as far as any sort of master planning comments or future development goes, we could speak about it at a very high level with what level of engineering and permits would go into future development.
Okay, we'll let you continue, and then if it gets a little convoluted, we'll clarify. How's
Perfect,
that?
sounds great. For the record, my name is Jeff Board, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Bowler Engineering, located at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford, Connecticut. As Mark had alluded to, this is a 1.4 mile stretch of road. Just to orient you on screen right now, north is to the top of page, Route 97 being to the right-hand side of the east, and then Lawler Lane to the western side of the page. So the span is 1.4 miles. There are two roundabouts starting from Route 97. You see the first one right there that's being highlighted. And then as you continue down to Old Canterbury, there's another roundabout. And I did want to say, just on behalf of Bowler and the applicant here, city staff has been incredible to work with over the past 2-3 months in fine tuning this plan. We had come in once before, withdrew that application after receiving certain input. So some of the technical pieces of what I'm giving you was direct input received from town staff or city staff, and we greatly appreciate their input here. Right now, there's 11-foot travel lanes. On the top right-hand side of the exhibit, there's a roadway cross-section, and I know it's hard to see, so I'll walk through the numbers, but it's 11-foot travel lanes, a 4-foot paved shoulder, 3-foot gravel strips, which I'll explain when I discuss the stormwater management, and a 10-foot wide permeable pavement multi-use trail on one side of the roadway, this case being the north side of the road. There will be timber guide rail between the roadway and the multi-use trail with wire mesh to capture any debris as part of our low impact development. There's underneath the permeable pavement, there's also gravel stone storage to help attenuate the water quality storm volumes. So one of the big things that we looked to incorporate in this design was low impact development, more specifically as it relates to best management practices. So in working with the city engineer, we came up with a design that basically is a curbless design. And what that means is on the edge of the road, we have these gravel strips that help to infiltrate water. That overflow then goes and is even doubled up by the multi-use trail, which also has a gravel base, which acts as water quality treatment and then overflows into grassed or vegetated water quality swales with check dams prior to going into 11 water quality basins spread throughout the 1.4 miles. So what that all boils down to is by the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, we're required to treat 34,500 cubic feet of volume for storage for water quality. We're providing 35,500. So we're providing in excess 1,000 cubic feet to what's required or recommended in that water quality manual. So it's rare that we get to do that and incorporate so many, I guess, natural best management practices. A lot of times we see, more catch basins and more structures that aren't natural. And in this case, with the input we received, took some engineering, but we were able to design something that is a lot of natural BMPs going on along with that multi-trail. So that was all to say that things are from a stormwater standpoint, very tightened up here. One of the other things is we tried to avoid the wetlands as much as possible. If you go to the next page, Dan, and I'll have you flip back to that one in a minute, but this image here just kind of highlights the areas where we were either crossing with a span. Those spans are natural bottom concrete culverts, basically, in all instances, except for the top left wetland crossing number 1 on the screen here. That was direct wetland impact with no span. Other than that, they were all being crossed with natural vegetated bottoms to try to minimize the amount of disturbance where we were making these crossings. You'll also notice that in most cases here, we're crossing at the narrowest point. So we're crossing where there was either an existing farm road that crossed in that location that we're just widening out or taking advantage of a natural crossing. And we did that in several locations where we just went to the narrowest point. We're able to span that, and any of the disturbances would just be temporary during the construction of the bridge, and it would go back to its natural state. So Dan, if you flip back to the page previous one more time. Let's see, I talked about that. So there will be a seed mix planted in those 11 basins I referred to, and in the set of drawings, there was 5 different sheets for each of these areas that were kind of blown up. And we have a detailed grading and drainage plan for each, and all 11 of those have been detailed out with their respective overflows associated with them. We also took very seriously, given the curbless design, given the length of the roadway, and the sensitivity to the wetlands, the soil erosion and sediment control plans. They were designed in accordance to the 2002 Connecticut Erosion and Sediment Control Guidelines, which basically means we have silt fence in the appropriate locations. We have a temporary construction entrance. We have inlet filters at all of the appropriate catch basins where there are some. We have a couple of catch basins in some of the lower points where we need to discharge into and treat TSS removal or total suspended solids removal. I think with that, That's big picture. There are several utilities shown. We did provide detailed utility plans. The majority of the development is handled by gravity sewer. There's one small section kind of to the western side between the two wetland bodies there that there will be a small lift station associated with a small force main there. And that's just to provide access to a gravity sewer. And then gas, electric, and water are also readily available. We're working with Norwich Public Utilities to facilitate what that looks like and what infrastructure to provide at this time, knowing future developments pending. So that's big picture from a civil standpoint of what we're dealing with here.
Can you point out where the catch basins are and where that water will be directed?
Yeah, Dan, if you maybe go to the next page, I have hard copies here. They're in the plan sets because each basin's individualized. So for example, on the bottom, scroll down to number 5 right there. So on number 5, you can see that there's catch basins here and here, and then they go off to the top right-hand side of that inset. And basically, there's one of the 11 infiltration basins I was talking about. They discharge into that. So they're all treated. They all have deep-footed sumps on them as well. So in the few instances that we did add catch basins, they're directly going and being treated, which is part of that 35,000 cubic feet of water quality volume we're providing. So there's a bit of redundancy because then on top of that, then we have the gravel that goes up on,
Yes.
up on the side. So it's just in a couple of the low-lying areas. That's where we did that.
All right, good evening. My name is Chris Allen. I'm an environmental consultant with Land Tech Consultants at 518 Riverside Ave in Westport, Connecticut. I am a professional soil scientist, registered soil scientist, and also professional wetland scientist. And I was responsible for delineating the wetlands on 284 acres or so. I did have assistance from 2 other local soil scientists, registered soil scientists. So all of the wetlands were flagged by registered soil scientists in accordance with the Connecticut general statutes. And they were also delineated in accordance with Army Corps guidelines for federal jurisdictional wetlands. The boundaries are the same. The methodology of doing the delineation is slightly different. Where Connecticut, you're only looking at soil types. You're looking for poorly drained, very poorly drained, alluvial or floodplain soil types. The federal jurisdictional wetlands, you have to document not only the soil types, hydric soils, but you have to look for evidence of wetland hydrology and predominance of hydrophytic vegetation, that is vegetation that predominantly grows in wet conditions. As part of that Army Corps delineation, we set up 47 plots throughout the property where we documented those conditions. It's really not required for you guys because you're regulated by the state guidelines, but that information will be submitted to the Army Corps. Yeah, if you could go back to the first slide, I guess, Dan. So, like I said, the wetlands were delineated in November of 2021. All of the wetland flags, and there were a lot of them, I'm sure more than 1,000, that were located by survey and added to the site plans. And that's the boundaries that you see on this map are surveyed locations of each one of those flags that were placed when we delineated the wetlands. So there's, I believe, 79.69 acres of wetlands throughout this entire parcel. And as you can see, it's kind of spread out throughout the property. There's several large wetlands. What we did prepare a report, which is part of the application. It's dated April 5th, 2022. In order to facilitate description of these wetlands, we identified each by letter. So we identified them A through K, kind of starting at the west side and moving to the east. So like that where the cursor is now, that would be wetland A. Up to the north would be wetland B and C, and then moving eastward, they progresses. So I can touch on some of the major wetlands. If you want me to get into any more detail, I can, but I'll just give you some brief descriptions, starting with wetland A, which is that one in the southwest corner. I'm sure you've all seen this one as you're driving down 395. It's a big area of ponded water. A lot of it's ponded. And there is also some forested wetlands around the edges. That little finger that goes off to the left is a forested wetland area. This wetland is also associated with Bryan Brook. It flows from the south underneath 395 into this wetland, and then continues east across Laurel Lane, and eastward into that larger wetland. Yes, exactly, into that wetland there, which is B, which then flows from south to north and off-site. So again, A is as valuable as it. Not all wetlands are created equal. Some of these wetlands are fairly disturbed on site, and some are kind of pristine, and some, such as wetland A and the large one in the center, which is wetland D, are pretty large, diverse systems. They contain different types of wetland habitat. Like I said, they contain Bryan Brook, which is an important resource. Because these are flat areas, the beavers have been pretty active in both those areas, and that's pretty much why you have those areas of ponded water, because there are several beaver dams in those areas that have backed up the brook and caused those areas to pond. So like I said, those wetlands are pretty diverse. You have areas of open water, shallow open water. You have areas of emergent marsh vegetation. You have some scrub habitats, and then you also have forested wetland habitats. So again, from a functions and value standpoints, wetlands A and wetlands D are pretty important. Then the other large wetland just to the east of wetland D is what we labeled wetland G. Part of that is within the Eversource right-of-way. It's underneath the Eversource right-of-way. Again, there's some open water habitat there, and then surrounded pretty much by common reed, also known as Phragmites, which is an invasive wetland plant. Probably not as much value as the other two wetlands. And then the southern portion of wetland G, which is just north of 395, most of that is in agricultural field. So it has been actively under cultivation at some point. Right now, it's predominantly vegetated with reed canary grass, which is another invasive, non-native invasive plant. From a hydrology standpoint, that wetland G receives flows underneath 395 again, which flow from south to north, and then eventually into the ponded area within the Eversource right-of-way. The pond to the north off-site flows into that wetland as well. And then all of that wetland flows to the east across Old Canterbury, and eventually makes its way through that other wetland just to the south and out to the Shetucket River. The other large area of wetland where the cursor is now, I believe that's wetland I. So that is, most of that area has been disturbed in the past. I'm sure you're familiar with some of the sand and gravel quarrying has taken place out there. So a lot of those wetlands look like they were created when they excavated the sand or gravel down to the water table. So they probably didn't go any deeper because they were hitting water. So a lot of those areas, the water table is expressed at the surface, and that's why you have those wetland conditions there. That area east of Laurel Lane is very sandy. Some of that white area to the east of the wetlands is actually, it looks like you're out in the desert, sand dunes. So those wetlands, even though they are large and kind of diverse, they're fairly well disturbed. There's also a lot of ATV traffic that goes through there now. So there's all kinds of tracks through those wetlands as well as the uplands. And then even further north, I think that's wetland H, which is adjacent to Route 97. Again, that was an area that appears to have been quarried at some point. It has some areas of shallow open water, emergent marsh vegetation, and shrub vegetation. There are some isolated small areas of wetlands that are man-made, such as Wetland K and Wetland J. I believe that Wetland K there, it looks like it was created to receive runoff from a couple of catch basins in Old Canterbury Road. Really doesn't go anywhere, it just kind of ends. And it is continually maintained. Last time I was out there, it was actively cleaned by the town, just so that it does continue to receive the flows from those catch basins. There's another small one, I believe it's Wetland K, which is adjacent to the barn. It's just a little man-made excavation that holds water periodically. And I can get into detail about the others, but all of those there's more details in our report. So if you refer to our report, you'll get more information on each one of those wetlands. And I'd just like to reiterate what Jeff said. When the roads were laid out, the roads were pretty much designed to avoid as much of the wetlands as possible. So they were, as you'll see, the crossings are at the narrowest points or in locations where there is an existing farm road. Even at the crossing of Wetland D, which is that large central wetland there, where the road goes now, there is an existing roadway across there, a filled farm road that's partially breached in some areas. Yes, that area right there. And also that is the only crossing of Bryan Brook. So there is no other crossing of the brook, which I think is a good thing. Bryan Brook is known to support trout, at least further up north. DP has some sampling stations further north, so it's important to maintain the quality of that brook, which I think this proposal does. I think,
Excuse me, for
Yes.
clarification, is that part of the plot what you are asking for tonight, or is it just the road that's to the east of there or to the west of there?
yeah, so the next slide shows
Okay,
the entire roadway, and it does include,
okay,
right,
there you go.
and that's all I have unless there's questions.
Doug, do you have any questions?
I have no questions of the applicant at this time.
Peter?
No, nothing.
Brandon?
I have no questions at this time.
Is Michael on?
No, that's what we've been going back and forth. He's been trying to get on. He hasn't been able to.
Dan, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything at this point. Is the presentation point finished at this point from the applicants?
Are you done with your presentation for right now?
For right
Okay.
now, yes.
So Dan, do you want to go over the next steps here?
So I will just say that we'd like a motion for, and Deanna has it written down next to you, Rich, if you want to see it as I'm reading it. It's for the public hearing to remain open until the June 16th special meeting, with a guided site walk to occur on May 26th at 3:30 p.m. with no public comment or Q&A to be taken at the site walk. The area that we'll be meeting at, it needs to be discussed and determined.
We discuss and determine that now.
Yes. let me
Okay.
just- May I suggest, Dan, that we always meet at the Occam Firehouse and then we go by convoy. To get into the.
So the public will be attending, because we have to invite the public. So is there enough parking at the Occam Firehouse?
Well,
for
what
public?
we just meet at the firehouse, then we go in a big convoy and we park up on Canterbury Turnpike. And then we can get into the farm road.
Or we could meet at the rec field there, the recreation field. Firehouse, there's Occam Pizza, and then there's City.
Everybody,
No.
Occam Pizza, Occam Park.
Okay, not up there.
No.
There is a park and ride.
Firehouse parking, okay, so Dan, we'll meet at what's the address there?
44 Taffel Occam Road.
44 Taffel Occam Road,
And I'll be happy to write a note to the chief and ask permission.
at the firehouse. So I'm gonna read it out loud again for you, and then they could be a motion to continue public hearing. So we're looking for a motion to continue the public hearing and keep it open until June 16th, inland wetland special meeting date. We're gonna have a guided sidewalk to occur on May 26th at 3:30 p.m. There'll be no public comment or question and answers to be taken at the sidewalk. Meeting location will be at 44 Taffel Occam Road, which is the Occam Firehouse. And from there, we will convoy over to the other location, but that's where the meeting will be. So if we could have someone make the motion to continue the public hearing to that.
Do I hear a motion?
This is Doug, so moved.
Is there a
Brandon
second?
Hyde, second.
All in favor? Doug,
Aye.
Brandon Hyde, aye.
Pete,
Pete, aye.
any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
The next time we'll see you then, we'll be at the site walk on May 20th.
Great.
Okay. 3:30.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And I'll be
gentlemen.
in touch.
Yeah.
Deanna?
The
do you
sidewalk
think
is
there
the
needs to be any
26th.
further clarification at the next meeting? We'll talk-
Yes,
we can
and I'll
talk about-
talk to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
talk
I
about-
have, yeah, we can
Yes.
visit, yeah.
because I want to address some things with Henry that
Sure.
be helpful to you. Okay?
Do you want us, we'll give you a call during the week?
Yes. Because we have another application, so.
Oh, sure,
Thank
sure.
you. Have a good
All right, thanks.
Thank you all very much.
Now, I'd like to bring up item IWWCC number 2204, Warwick Street, water main extension and bridge deck replacement.
This is the installation of an 8-inch water main along portions of Otrobando Avenue, Waweka Street, and Browning Road. The project extent is from the vicinity of number 185 Otrobando Avenue to 44 Browning Road. And there's also an additional replacement of a bridge deck for bridge number 103007 on Otrobando Avenue. Project requires a temporary disturbance of approximately 1,270 square feet of regulated area. It's an application of Norwich Public Utilities in the city of Norwich, and it's property of city of Norwich. And we have Kyle Halbert from CLA on to speak about the project.
Hi, my name is Kyle Hobbert. I'm from CLA Engineers. We're located on Main Street here in Norwich. We're here on behalf of the applicant, Norwich Public Utilities. Dan, is it possible to?
Okay, Brandon, I think that's you're signed on twice. Do you want to take control and you have a presentation, Kyle? Is that what you're asking?
I have a copy of the plans, yeah, that I could share. Yep.
Sure. Yep, go ahead. I stopped sharing, so you're free.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to walk away for a second. You got this under control right now, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, be right back.
Okay.
As you can see on the screen, this is from the cover page of the plan set. So the project extents, as Dan noted, starts at Otrobando Avenue. The end of the existing water main is right in this area. There is an existing water service that crosses to the Little League fields, but otherwise there's no main beyond this point. The intention is to extend the water main easterly on Otrobando Avenue, and then southerly down Waweka Street to Browning Road. And the intention is to service domestic water for these residences here on Browning Road. In particular, the area that we're talking about, this is right at the intersection of Otrobando Avenue and Waweka Street. This parking area in here is for the medical office building. And this driveway entrance here is for a small condo complex right in this area. As I noted, the water main currently terminates right about here. There is an existing 2-inch water service that crosses Otrobando and crosses through the middle of the bridge that we'll talk about in a second, right in this area, and then continues to the Little League fields. It only services the Little League fields at this point. There is also a gas main that runs in parallel with the water, also crosses directly through the middle of the bridge crossing, and then continues up Waweka Street and Otrobando Avenue. The water main project stays primarily within the roadway. Through the entire rest of the project, the water main will be installed within the roadway. What we're proposing is at this bridge crossing right here, in lieu of crossing through the bridge like they do with the service now, we're proposing to cross at the southern inlet side of the bridge. We'll install the water main in this area and route it around the bridge and then continue directly back into the roadway. What we're proposing also is to install a gas main in parallel with the water main there. That way we can remove both utilities, the water service and the gas from the middle of that bridge. Currently, the utilities through the middle of the bridge are potentially prone to damage from material floating through the stream here and through the bridge. They also create a catch point, which more frequently catches branches or things like that float down the stream and create some clogging problems in that structure. So our proposal will remove those utilities from the bridge and reroute them to the south side here through the wetlands and then back into the roadway.
You're
Our
going to go
proposal-
under the brook there?
It would be entrenched under the brook, correct? Yep.
Okay.
What we're proposing is that the stream bed material and the wetlands soils be stripped and stockpiled. The utilities trenched and installed through the wetlands. And then the wetland soils and the stream bed materials reinstalled and restored to the natural condition. While this work is being done, we will have a full-time inspector on site observing the work and ensuring that it's installed properly and restored properly. We chose this side of the bridge primarily because it disturbs a little bit less wetlands than it would going on the opposite side. Also, it's in the vicinity of the discharge from the road catch basin, the stormwater basin for the medical buildings, and an under drain for the medical buildings. So it's an area that's been previously disturbed and has been, has some stormwater influence around it. So it made sense to go along the southern side of the bridge. Now, if you have driven out there in that area recently, you might notice that the road in this area has been reduced to one lane. There is a sinkhole that is opened up through the bridge deck, right about where my cursor is right now. So Public Works has temporarily shut the road to one lane traffic only. So as part of this project and after the utilities are relocated out of the bridge channel, what we're proposing is to replace the bridge deck in this area. The abutments themselves are in good condition. There is a concrete channel that runs through here that is also in good condition. So what we're proposing is saw cutting and removing the existing concrete deck. And what we'll do is, you can see here more clearly, I guess. These abutments will stay here, and then we will pour a new concrete deck above the existing abutments. If there are any questions or any comments, I will be happy to answer.
Are you going to dam the stream up so that you can work in that stream bed? Or
The
divert
intention would be
stream?
to work during the dry time of year. This stream does dry up.
Okay.
So the intention would be to work during the dry time of year. What we have done is we have a provision for a temporary culvert. You can see right here. So if necessary, and if there is some minor flow through the stream, we've sized the culvert to temporarily divert water over any of the trench. We anticipate that the work through the wetlands to take about 3 days. It would be about a day for the water, a day for the gas, and then a day for restoration. So it would be a short duration construction through this area.
Doug, do you have any questions?
No, I do not have any questions of the applicant.
Peter?
No, no questions.
Brandon?
I do not have any questions. I think this is a necessary project and it looks like they took all the necessary precautions.
In that case, do we have a motion to approve?
Well, Rich, I just remind you, we need a motion on whether or not a public hearing is warranted first.
Okay,
This is Doug. I would move that a public hearing is not required for this application.
Brandon Hyde, second.
there's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Doug, aye.
Brandon, aye.
Pete, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so move.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Can I ask, Doug, if you can clarify why the public hearing isn't required? Is it because you're not finding that it's not a significant activity, or that the erosion and sediment controls proposed are, appropriate for the project, or a reason, so we can have that on the record, please?
Yeah. For everything you said.
Okay, the ENS is sufficient. Okay, thank you. Got it, thanks.
So now we need a motion to approve.
I would just chime in here. I have some of the usual conditions on my memo. If you could just add that in your motion, that they be addressed.
Doug?
I'll be right with you. This is the memo for this one, so while we get some of these down, following comments.
Okay, Dan has comments and conditions 1 through 4. The final revised plans be submitted and reviewed by city staff. Applicant should have the signature of the certified soil scientist added to the final plan. After the applicant presents their proposal, the commission must determine whether a public hearing should be held for the application if it finds a significant activity. Okay, we've done that. Should the commission make a favorable decision on this application, after stating the reasons for the record, Dan recommends that the following conditions be made part of the approval. That the approval is valid for 5 years and will expire on 5/5/2027. That final revised plans be submitted and reviewed by city staff. The applicant should have the signature of the certified soil scientist added to the final plan. That all site activities should be conducted in accordance with the plan's specifications and documents of record. Any deviation from the approved plans or construction sequence shall be cause for enforcement action by the Inland Wetlands, Watercourses, and Conservation Commission. That the permittee shall notify the Inland Wetlands agent prior to the commencement of work and upon its completion. That all work and all regulated activities conducted pursuant to this authorization shall be consistent with the terms and conditions of this approval. Any structures, excavation, fill, obstructions, encroachments, or regulated activities not specifically identified and authorized herein shall constitute a violation of this approval and may result in its modification, suspension, or revocation. Upon initiation of the activities authorized herein, the permittee thereby accepts and agrees to comply with the terms and conditions of this approval. That no equipment or materials, including without limitation fill, construction materials, or debris shall be deposited, placed, or stored in any wetland or watercourse on or off site unless specifically authorized by this approval. That the general provisions stated in section 11.9 of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse regulations are applicable to this permit. That the permit shall not be assigned or transferred to any other entity without the written permission of the commission. That all erosion and sediment control measures shall be in accordance with Connecticut guidelines for erosion and sediment control. Erosion and sediment control measures shall be installed and inspected prior to site disturbance. It is the permittee's responsibility to schedule the inspection with the Norwich Planning Department. Additional erosion and sediment control measures shall be installed if determined to be necessary by the designated agent. The permittee shall take such necessary steps consistent with the terms and conditions of the approval to control stormwater discharges and to prevent erosion and sedimentation and to otherwise prevent pollution of wetlands and watercourses. Finally, that this permit will be strictly enforced. The commission may submit or revoke this permit, may direct the commission's agent to issue a cease and desist order, or may require the applicant to modify, extend, or revise the site work to restore the area to its original condition if it finds that the applicant has not complied with the conditions set forth in this approval, or if the applicant exceeds the scope of this approval as set forth herein, or if the intended use or actual use of the general site is not as represented by the application or the plan of record. End of memo.
I know, you didn't have to read all number 4 conditions.
I don't think you heard me, Rich, but I asked to waive the reading of them, but then I don't want to.
Obviously, I didn't hear that,
I know, I didn't
I-
either.
but I hope you appreciate that soliloquy.
Yes, you've earned a glass of water at this point. So if someone could make a motion including everything Rich just read, that would be great.
This is Doug, motion to approve based on everything that was read.
Pete, second.
The motion on the table, all in favor?
Doug, aye.
Brandon, aye.
Pete, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. New business, Stan,
I don't have any applications for you tonight.
other business,
Nothing.
violations.
So just a quick item of note, we received word about some material being placed on the embankment of the Yantic River on Town Street across from the Stop and Shop parking lot behind the old Uncas Pharmacy, to give you a general idea. So I went out with the city engineer and the zoning officer and spoke for about an hour with a tenant of one of the houses there. And we told them that they couldn't deposit the material on the embankment, had a long discussion. The next day, he started removing what he had placed there by hand. So I'll report back to you, I would say at the July meeting at this point. I don't really want to get it involved at the June meeting because it'll be mainly Business Park North. And I'm waiting for the zoning officer to write up a letter with some conditions because we're going to have a joint letter to them. So just a heads up there. I'm not going to handle it as a cease and correct order because they're already correcting it. So I'll just report back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Is there a
And that's-
move to adjourn?
Pete, motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Pete, second.
All in favor?
Doug, aye.
Brandon, aye.
Pete, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys on May 26th at 3:30.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rain or shine, 'cause the